Okay, so we're doing the Pro-metronome today. We're going to set it up. I'm talking specifically to my private students first and maybe other people, but you can see I have ran a line out from the iPad to a Bose speaker. Okay, this gives some external speaker source, really helps to be able to hear the metronome better. You can also use headphones. That's primarily what I use is headphones. All right, I got a little coffee and we'll be taking a sip of from time to time. All right, so once you download the app, it's free. Go ahead and get the $4 upgrade so that you can change. You can go in here to this 4/4 icon and change between these different little settings here. Okay, this is the hi-hat settings once we get to the drums. Okay, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Let's go over here. Let's take that off. Just tap anywhere, should do it. All right, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to go over here to this top left icon to the tools. Okay, and what we have here are the tones. You can ignore everything down. The only thing we're looking at is the tone. Okay, what the tone setting does, we can scroll through to different numbers, and what it does is it gives you different sounds for the metronome. So let's just scroll through those real quickly and hear the different sounds. You can see that there's these little pink blocks that come across the top here. I have those all set at the same height. Okay, you can change them, and we're going to look at that in a minute how. But let's just stick with tones for now. All the settings are the same. So I'm going to hit play, and that's our first number 1. Here's number 2. Number 3. So each number is a different sound so that you can choose what sound you want. We're going to go straight to drums, which is number 12. Okay, there's a wood block. Number 10, cowbell. Number 11 is another wood block. Number 12 is the drum setting. Okay, right now with the drum setting, everything is down with one little block. There's a possibility of 3 little blocks to be filled in here. With it all the way down like this, it is on hi-hat. Okay, that's what you're hearing right now is a hi-hat. Okay, I can mute them, and so you can see they turn gray, and that means that there's no sound. Okay, so now let's go in and take a look at how to set up the drum set. When you're doing a drum beat, typically you have a bass drum on beat 1 and a bass drum on beat 3, snare drum on beat 2, and a snare drum on beat 4. So that's the sounds that we're going to go for. To set up for the bass drum, you need to have all 3 blocks filled in. So that should, after muting, now we're going to hear bass drum right there on beat 1. Okay, so let's make sure, and I could go through and change it if I accidentally hit it. Now it's a snare drum, back to hi-hat, back to mute, back to bass drum. Okay, so let's go over here and do a bass drum on beat 3. There's beat 2, beat 3. We're going to hit it, and it's going to come. Now we have a bass drum on beat 1 and 3. Okay, now let's go over here and put a snare drum on beat 2. Okay, so you can see that I have one of the blocks is now not put in or whatever, so it's looks like that. Okay, now let's put the snare drum on beat 4. Now I have a bass, snare, bass, snare. Okay, that's the sound that we're going to go for most everything we play in the beginning is pretty much in 4/4. So we're going to set it up like this for the drums. Okay, let me stop this. Now, if you've gotten the upgrade, you need to get the upgrade, the $4 upgrade. You can go down here to this little icon, the 4/4 icon, press it, and this menu is going to come up. What we have here is an 8th note. You have a rest and an 8th note, a triplet, a rest and 2 of the triplets. Then this is a triplet with a rest in the middle, a triplet with a rest on the end, and then 16th notes. And I can actually go down here and do polyrhythms where I'm adding hi-hat fills that are different. But I am not going to do that, get into that today. We're just going to do the simple thing. Okay, so let's go through the different hi-hat fills. Okay, now we got our bass snare, over here to this icon, getting the hi-hats up. Okay, this one right here, just to the right of the quarter note, is a straight hi-hat. Okay, so we call straight. Okay, this is going to sound just like the straight hi-hat. Still the same kind of sound. It doesn't change it much. Okay, let's go over here just to the next one. This is a triplet. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. This is going to sound pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. All right, so this one here is a swung hi-hat. It's a swing that works for some songs like Statesboro Blues. It works really well for, but Must Have Did Somebody Wrong and other swings it's not going to work real great for. But anyway, it's still useful. And this is going to be a little bit different triplet, and then we have the 16th note, and I can go in here and do polyrhythm. That's fives. Oops, excuse me. Oops, did not mean to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but we're not worried about that. Okay, let's just go back to the straight hi-hat fill for now. Okay. Okay, so there we have a straight hi-hat fill, which is generally what we're going to be using for the most part in the beginning. It's just a straight hi-hat. Okay, we can speed the metronome up by turning the dial to the right. Okay, you can slow it down by turning the dial to the left. Okay, that's pretty much everything that you need to know to get started with lessons. Okay, so let's now just take a look at as many different settings as we can. Just go through and mess with it. So let's go back now. Actually, let's go into what we do for like a classical type guitar study, okay, which will, some of my students are doing. So for classical music, I do not really worry too much about playing with the drums because you don't hear that in classical music very much. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go back and I'm going to take the hi-hat fill out, okay? So here's our straight hi-hat. I'm going to take the hi-hat out by hitting this quarter note icon over here, okay? So just so you know, it's that one. All right, so now I've got I've got no hi-hat at all, okay? Just counting quarter notes. So I'm going to change these back down to just everything being the same, what I call a neutral sound. Okay, it's neutral because you can't hear what beat is what, okay? If I want to hear beat 1, I can put a different one on beat 1. Now we don't have a neutral sound. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that you can actually hear where beat 1 happens. I just prefer to leave it at neutral for my beginning guitar students. Okay, so it's in a neutral setting. Everything sounds exactly the same. I could do that. I could make them all bass drums if I wanted, right? Okay, so now I have all bass drums. That's also a neutral sound. I can do all snare drums. That's also a neutral sound because everything is the same. Okay, so, and for classical type studies, I prefer some sort of sound like this, like a wood block. That's not too bad. It's not so annoying that I can't, listen to it over and over. The cowbell sounds okay too. That's another wood block. That's actually pretty pleasant for classical guitar, number 8. Or 7, that I don't like. It's weird. That's very weird. That's easy to listen to. And that's what we're looking for, is something easy to listen to. A lot of times when I'm wanting to do a neutral sound for my, I'll just go back to drums, and what I do is just set it on hi-hat, okay? To me, that's pretty simple. I just set everything to hi-hat, and that gives me a nice neutral sound, something that's not annoying to listen to over and over, and I can use that one sound to, to practice classical music with. Okay, that pretty much covers everything that you need to know for the beginner guitar stuff. If we're going to change, let's change the time signature. Okay, so I'm going to set this back to 4/4. with the drums. Let's go in here and change it to 3/4. I don't know why that's not coming up, but that's 3/4. You can see it here. For some reason, it's moved the 3/4 icon here, but you can see we're in 3/4. So I'm going to change the 3/4 to bass, snare. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Or I could go bass. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Of course, that's not neutral. Can also do a bass, snare with a straight hi-hat. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And that's, I mean, we won't see a lot of 3/4 for our metronome use in the beginning. It's just not going to happen that much. So I went back to 4/4, and when I did, my drums are now messed up. I have bass, snare, hi-hat, okay? So remember, with 4/4, you want it on bass, snare, and we got a straight hi-hat. Okay, in general, with beginning guitar lessons, you'll see a straight hi-hat, and you may see a swung hat, okay, from time to time as well, just to get a little bit different feel. For the most part, we use 4/4 with straight hi-hat a lot, okay? All right, so that's pretty much a beginner setup for Pro-metronome. Quick run through. If you have any questions or comments or concerns about this video that you feel like I should cover something else, just feel free to email me, and we can, I can talk about it, or maybe redo this video for you guys. I'm open to feedback and, to try to make this clear and easier to understand. Hope y'all have a great day.